Hello, I'm Neil Nunes with the BBC News. Criminal charges have been laid against Donald Trump in a third case. A grand jury indicted the former president in connection with his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election result. The special counsel Jack Smith detailed the charges at a news conference in Washington.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia. It sets forth the crimes charged in detail.
Before the indictment was made public, Mr. Trump accused the special counsel of deliberately delaying charges to interfere with next year's presidential election. Mr. Trump is already due to stand trial next year in 2 criminal cases. Namia Iqbal has more from Washington.
What the Department of Justice has to do is to prove intent, and that is going to be the big thing for them, to prove that Donald Trump intended to do everything that they've accused him of. And, Donald Trump can easily argue that he genuinely believed that the election was stolen from him. But the Department of Justice, throughout the indictment, what I'm seeing so far, they've got lots of quotes from many people that have contributed, that have been witnesses. There are 6 co-conspirators who have been mentioned in the indictment. They've not been named, but they are lawyers, Justice Department officials, and a political consultant.
Court officials in the U.S. state of Michigan say a Republican lawyer has been charged with tampering with voting machines during the 2020 presidential election. Matthew DePerno, whose candidature for state attorney general was endorsed by Donald Trump last year, is accused of unlawfully obtaining and damaging a voting machine. Mr. DePerno brought a legal case to the Michigan Appeals Court last year, claiming without foundation that widespread electoral fraud had cost Mr. Trump the 2020 election. The president of El Salvador has announced a new operation in his war against gangs with the immediate mobilization of 7,000 soldiers and 1,000 heavily armed police officers. Mimi Swaby has more.
President Nayib Bukele's strategy is to create a so-called security fence where forces will lay siege to an entire department of the country, Cabanas, which covers an area of over 1,000 kilometres. The president tweeted the aim was to prevent gang members from moving freely and to break their supply chains. This is the latest effort in a huge operation which has seen more than 70,000 suspected gang members arrested since March last year, when a state of emergency was declared in response to spiking rates in gang-related murders.
World News from the BBC. The first of 3 French planes sent to evacuate European citizens from Niger following last week's military coup has taken off from the capital Niamey. The French Foreign Ministry organized the flights after demonstrators attacked the French embassy on Sunday. France says it has no plans to repatriate an estimated 1,000 French soldiers stationed there. There's been an increase in the number of leprosy cases in the U.S. state of Florida. New analysis published by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that while the disease remains comparatively rare in the United States, cases have been steadily rising since 2000. Kat Wiener reports.
In the past, most U.S. cases of the debilitating disease, which can, if untreated, cause paralysis and blindness, were transmitted by people born abroad. But the CDC says almost all the cases they are now coming across, which are mainly concentrated in central Florida, are locally acquired. Scientists have concluded that leprosy is now endemic in the region, but remain baffled as to why. One theory is that it could be spread by contact with animals, in particular Florida's 9-banded armadillo, which naturally carries an identical strain of the bacteria that causes leprosy in humans.
Statistics from Ukraine show that the birth rate has fallen by 28% since Russia launched its invasion last year. Just under 97,000 babies were born in the first 6 months of this year, compared to 135,000 in the same period in 2021. Mexican NGOs say 1 police officer has been killed every day in Mexico on average since 2018. They say police officers have become cannon fodder against drug cartels. Organizations have registered that 256 police personnel were killed in the first 6 months of this year. BBC News.